What's up, people? It's me, Super Nerd Pharaoh, and I got 5 subscribers, finally. So, as a celebration of this monumental achievement in my life, I'm going to do my 5 subscriber special. I think every milestone I hit that I think is worth it is just going to have me showing you my stories and my picks from the ultimate Pokemon picker. Because Pokemon really does mean that much to me, but what's important to me using the ultimate Pokemon picker is as a fan from basically day one, I've I have a story for almost every species that I've used that I can recall. Um with the exception of Generation 8, which I don't want to do that milestone video before I play it, but who knows. Anyways, I've got the ultimate Pokemon picker behind me, and because my head isn't gonna be too big, I'm not gonna have to move that much for me to choose the Generation 1 thing for that. So I hope you can forgive me for that much. Anyways, let's get started on the ultimate Pokemon picker, Generation 1. Thanks for the people who actually watch my videos, and thank you in the future to the people who, look on and say, hey, that's kind of funny. Why is he doing a 5 subscriber special? It's kind of ironic. It's kind of not. But I figure if this channel's going to go nowhere, then we're going to celebrate being somewhere? Anyways, so for my ultimate normal type for Generation 1, and I'm using a reference sheet because I actually filled out my ultimate Pokemon picker to see if I was like on to something. I did have Tauros for my favorite in the ultimate Pokemon picker, but now that I'm looking at it, Porygon has been one of my aces in Little Cup, especially in Pokemon Stadium 2. And I have several Snorlax plushies. So between Tauros, Porygon, and Snorlax, I think I'm gonna have to go with Porygon because I'm a super nerd and that's my trainer class. It makes the most sense, right? I do like Porygon, the Porygon family a lot. It's like what we can make pixels look like 3D models. It doesn't belong in LC, it doesn't belong in unevolved Pokemon classes, especially with like stats as low as babies, but it is technically the baby of its line, and I do like it a lot. So for fire, we're gonna go with Arcanine. Arcanine is I always name my Arcanine Sky. I don't know why I did that back when I was a kid. But I remember back in Generation 2 when Arcanine would learn extreme speed upon hitting level 50, which means you have to evolve your Growlithe at level 49 and then evolve it. And extreme speed was a very cool move that I didn't I mean, in Pokemon Crystal, there's a Dragonite that gets extreme speed, but extreme speed for all of like 4.5 weeks was the signature move of Arcanine. On top of that, Arcanine leads in Pokemon games tend to be really good, and especially in Generation 3, when I got my first copy of Fire Red, running into Growlithe. Now, I used to not like Intimidate or using Intimidate users because the game would take longer because you'd send out your Pokemon and the game would take its extra time to calculate and show the animation for the attack being lowered. I did not realize how game breaking that was, and I always used to have Growlithe with Flash Fire for some reason. But as I've gone back and revisited games, when I have a choice, Arcanine is almost always there. It's relatively bulky. It's got really good all around stats, and you can basically make what you want of it. And I didn't realize that fire was that good of a defensive type, but now I do. But yeah, Arcanine definitely one of the all-time greats. For water type, we're definitely going to go with Tentacruel for console water types, and it's actually one because Tentacruel has really awesome stats for a trash mob. 100 special means it has 100 special attack and 100 special defense in Generation 1. And when it learns Barrier, there's not much other Pokemon can do. In Generations 1 and 2, Tentacruel learns Barrier, and the AI frags out not knowing how to handle a bulky water type, especially in Generation 2 where you can slap leftovers on a Tentacruel. If you've ever faced Claire in Pokemon Gold, Silver, or Crystal, and you've had a high defense Tentacruel, you'll see how she writhes at not being able to do anything while you send acid and sludge bombs and toxic if you've gotten your hands on it. For the grass type, I I'm tempted to put Victory Bell because I used to love Victory Bell so much, but we are going to go with Venusaur. Venusaur, and by that I mean the Bulbasaur family, was the first starter line I chose of my own volition in a vacuum, not choosing it to oppose somebody, not choosing it to not be having it being chosen for me. Like I'm sharing a cartridge with my brothers, which I often did. I often did share cartridges with my brother. I'm not a huge proponent of starter Pokemon, but when I do, I often pick the grass type. I have no idea what that's about. Venusaur is a big, stupid, tanky frog, and I love all of its forms. It currently is like a sunny day weather ball abuser. When it has a mega evolution, it can use, Giga Drain and Leech Seed and all that stuff. It's really cool. I like Venusaur. For the electric type, we're going to go with. And the selection here is really nice, right? But I'm going to have to go with Raichu, specifically because of when I was playing through Generation 1, and often in my Generation 1. First of all, easy access to stab ever since Yellow version. Well, I mean, you can't evolve your Pikachu in Yellow version, but you know what I mean. Pikachu learns Thunderbolt at either 25 or 26, and it's game changing, especially in the early games to have access to strong stab moves with a Thunderbolt. Not to mention, Raichu is one of the few Pokemon that can counter some rainy day setters like Kyogre. Raichu's also just cooler Pikachu. It's big and it's tough, and I liked the fable that it had being a Pikachu competitor in the Pokemon movie short and also the anime. I've always liked Raichu as like a you but better, even though it doesn't get nearly as much marketing. And I just like it for being fast and you know powerful or whatever. My favorite ice type. I've debated this over and over in my life for my favorite ice type. Dugong is my absolute savior in Pokemon Stadium 2's rental meta. However, it's got to be Lapras. I always name my Lapras as Jesus. Again, I don't know why I do the things I do. Lapras is one of the coolest Pokemon ever. It's communicative, it's intelligent, it's kind. It's got access to a kaiju moveset. It can learn Earthquake and Thunderbolt. It can even learn Psychic. I think it just can't learn Solar Beam. And it's just look at it. It's one of the coolest, cutest Generation 1 Pokemon. I wish it got like a pre-evolution so we could use it, during like early game. Or a mega evolution would have been pretty cool, but a Gigantamax form, I guess, is what we're gonna have to settle for. My favorite fighting type of Generation 1, and there are many. Now, I previously had Poliwrath at my favorite because Poliwrath is a good unexpected. Water fighting was a pretty rare typing for a very long time. However, I did not realize that Poliwrath, and by that I mean like as I've played the games and like used Poliwrath, I didn't realize that sometimes I like BVO like Poliwhirl because Poliwrath loses speed upon evolving, which they've been doing this since Generation 1. It's a complaint I'll make in a later video. But we're going to go with my all-time rental meta favorite, and when I say rental meta, I mean when I play Pokemon Stadium 2 and try to complete the challenges using rental only Pokemon, which is something that I'm only forced to do because the Nintendo Switch doesn't let you import Pokemon to use in Pokemon Stadium. Despite being having bad stats and no DVs, Hitmonlee is just it learns the most fighting type moves out of any fighting type Pokemon for a ridiculous amount of time in Pokemon. And it's very creative with the kicks that it can learn. Jump kick, high jump kick, rolling kick, double kick, all that stuff. It's super cool. My favorite poison type is going to be Nidorino, specifically Nidorino and not Nidoking. We love the Fawns around here. If you don't know about Twitch Plays Pokemon, the Fawns is the Nidoking who ended up on the final team. However, Nidorino is the first Pokemon I saw. When you start up the Pokemon software, Pokemon Red specifically, you click on the Game Boy and you can see that it's Nidorino versus Gengar. It's the first Pokemon you literally see, and I was already in love when I saw that. Not to mention Nidorino is actually a pretty clutch thing. I love the Nidoran line. I think it's completely underutilized, especially post Dexit era. I know people have gotten around to using Nidorino and Nidoking as the recent re-release of Fire Red Leaf Green on Nintendo Switch has allowed them to do so. I love this. I would have one in real life if I could. I think I named my Nidoking in my Nidorinos Xeno for the longest time, and then my little brother gave me my Game Boy back after I came back from college, whatever. And he caught a Nidorino named Donut, so now I named him Donut. And I'm pretty sure he named it Donut because he's purple, and that's the name of the guy from Red versus Blue. For my favorite ground type, I know I said I love Nidoking, but I have a massive respect for Rhydon specifically. One, Rhydon has fully evolved stats, and yes, because it was fully evolved for four whole generations. However, it's so useful even with Eviolite, and it learns Earthquake, and it's strong, and it's also just a Pokemon as Pokemon. No mistake, because it's obviously the first design they ever came up with and implemented. Its index number is 001, so you gotta have some respect for the OGs. I love Rhydon as a representative ground type. I think it's one of the coolest. For the flying type, we're going to have to go with, and I would love to put Dodrio here because Dodrio is my rental meta king, but Aerodactyl is one of the fastest rock type Pokemon of all time. When the moment you get an Aerodactyl in Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, the game completely turns around. Aerodactyl is a offensive beast, and I don't think any other trainer except for Lance, who respects powerful Pokemon, has an Aerodactyl. No one else uses fossil Pokemon in the rest of the game. Aerodactyl is really goddamn cool. I love it so much. I forget what I name my Aerodactyls, so if I have a significant name for Pokemon, I promise I'll mention it. For the Psychic type, I'm gonna go with Jinx specifically for the Psychic type. You'll see my true favorite Pokemon in Generation 1 later, but uh, to cover some representation here, Jinx is underrated and understudied, and just a grand big oopsie whoopsie when it comes to what happened with the Pokemon IP. And maybe Game Freak and Nintendo regret what happened and they try to pretend that Jinx doesn't exist. I don't. Jinx is a moderately fast, moderately powerful human shaped Pokemon that so happened to take these different trends and the crossroads of which ended up looking greatly like blackface. Is it a tragedy? Yes. Do I love having Jinx on my teams in Pokemon? I will not hesitate to put it on my team whatsoever. I got a little plushie too. Maybe I'll show you that.
Yeah, so funny story. This little plushie was on the rack of a collector store for, I want to say, like 3 months before I finally decided to buy her because she was so lonely. But here she is. Nice little, I don't even know if it's sitting cuties, but I don't know how many people have a Jinx plushie, and she's lovely.
For the bug type, and I used to not like the bug type for a long time, especially like if I managed to catch a Scyther, which is one of the scariest Pokemon back in the day. Like, just literally, like, if you see the Pokemon Red sprite for Scyther, you'll understand what I mean. If you catch a Scyther, it's like, oh god, I just caught like a horrible beast. But Scyther is essentially a worse normal type Pokemon in Generation 1, and it ends up doing that for way too long. Even by the time Scizor comes along, they're pretty not good until like Generation 4, where it gets Technician, and then like I think Generation 5 gets Bullet Punch. Whichever generation it started defining itself. But for the longest time, I loved Scyther just by design. But my all-time favorite bug type wound up being Venomoth, because it's got really jacked stats for a bug type, especially in Generation 1. It's got access to psychic type moves, it's got poison, it's got just it's got strong, yeah, it's got strong everything that it has no business having. On top of like later generations with Insect and Quiver Dance, I ended up with a, I always name my Venomoth ATV after the all-terrain Venomoth that bested Lance's Dragonite in Twitch Plays Pokemon version 1. And it's Quiver Dance, Sweeper, all that stuff. His Venomoth is super cool. For rock types, we are going to have to go with Lord Helix himself. Have you heard it from my mouth during this video? Yes, I was there. I was watching. I was definitely not doing my schoolwork or anything when it came to Twitch Plays Pokemon. The first version ever, Lord Helix was my Lord and Savior. I love Ammonite. Now, in terms of battle, Ammonite's not bad. I mean, it's a rock type, so especially in Generation 1, that ends up being good, especially like in a Little Cup rental meta in Pokemon Stadium 2. But you gotta respect Lord Helix. You gotta respect it. For ghost types, there's only one ghost type line in Pokemon, so it's just between Ghastly, Haunter, and Gengar. I always got Haunter has in-game stats for Pokemon Generation 1. Like, it's really strong, it's really fast, and my older brother, when we shared a cartridge, he had a Haunter named Ibuki that he over leveled beyond anything that it had any business being the level of, and taught it Psychic and Thunderbolt and whooped my ass in a battle so badly that I just recreated that Pokemon when I caught one myself. Uh, all hail Ibuki the Haunter. For dragon types, again with only one dragon line, Dratini, Dragonair, and Dragonite, I like Dragonite the most of them all, and this is a more recent development because I used to like Dragonair because of the aesthetics that it had. Yes, we love Dragonair. It's nice, it's beautiful, it's serene, but Dragonite has been rinsed as an offensive, scary powerhouse in media, and I've enjoyed playing Dragonite in the games that it's available to be playing, especially Pokemon Unite, where Dragonite is either a hyper beam slinging monster or an outrage slap boxer who absolutely decimates teams. It's one of the coolest like things like when you see a Dragonite in action, especially like in recent times where Terra normals and wrecks everything. They are powerful Pokemon. You just can't underestimate it, even if it looks like it's from Barney the dinosaur, right? There are no dark type Pokemon in red, blue, and yellow. So what the ultimate Pokemon picker has done here is it allows you to choose the alternate or bugged out sprites. And while I do love Missing No, I think I'm gonna make a Missing No T-shirt or something of a long time from us. I should have a Missing No like desktop background or something later on. I do want a plush of the substitute doll. It's one of the most recognizable non-Pokemon, and it's adorable. I love it so much. It represents the number 001, the Rhydon concept as a Pokemon, but also it's just nice and cute, and I love it. So I'm gonna put that there. For Steel type, we're just gonna default to Magneton. Now I do want to, yes, Magneton might be the only fully evolved Steel type in Kanto or in the Generation One. But another thing I like a lot about Magneton is that the Steel type is actually really goddamn strong in Generation One. Yes, it's quad weak to ground, but for everything else, they can practically eat shit. It's really hard to get fire type stab that's powerful in Generation One, which means again, Magneton kind of runs wild in rental metas in Pokemon Stadium 2. It also knows Thunder and Thunder Wave and Swift for evasion spammers, so that's cool. The fairies, I liked Clefable for the longest time. My mom gave me a Jigglypuff for fairy types. My mom gave me a Jigglypuff named Hyacinth. That's her favorite flower. And I had a Wigglytuff, and I didn't realize that Wigglytuff was really bad. I just always kept Pokemon that were given to me as gifts. But Clefable, I do like Clefable the most out of the Generation 1 fairy types because when it was a normal type, it was the everything Pokemon. If you didn't have Mew or Ditto, this pink blob is what you taught everything because Clefable had ridiculous coverage back in and really good special. So it was pretty cool. So moving on to the general ones, my favorite starter for Generation One is again Venusaur. Now I've had Blizzard. I've had Charizards. I've had Blastoises. I actually like using Blastoise in Pokemon Unite. I like using Charizard in Smash 4, specific like Super Smash Bros. 4 for the Wii U and 3DS, because I think that the Pokemon were better off as solos, especially Charizard, which I like Rock Smash and all that stuff. Um, so Charizard has had a decent overrepresentation in media. However, I still do like Venusaur most of all for how it performs in Pokemon and my preferences towards combat in Pokemon. For my favorite gimmick form, however, look at all these beautiful Mega Evolutions, even including like the most recent ones like Mega Starmie and stuff. We're still going to go with Mega Venusaur for reasons that I mentioned earlier. Big, strong, stupid tank. Completely different than what normal Venusaur is capable of because it loses chlorophyll, but still holds its own. For my favorite legend, it's got to be Mewtwo. I have a Mewtwo shrine in my house. Like when you walk up the stairs and take the curve, you'll see a bunch of statues and the amiibo and the posters of Mewtwo that I have that I plan on having more of later.
I know I make it sound like all that, but this is still a lot for me, and I'm very proud of what I've gotten, and I'm very anticipating what I'll get in the future.
I love Mewtwo. Out of all the Generation 1 Pokemon, I think the representation that Mewtwo gets as a powerful entity is beyond reproach. Mewtwo is one of the coolest Pokemon designs of all time, and that's why it is also my all time favorite for Generation 1 in my ultimate Pokemon picker. So that's all I have for my ultimate Pokemon picker. I hope you enjoyed me walking you through my thought process when it comes to talking about Pokemon. Those are the stories I have to think. And like, what are your Generation One Ultimate Pokemon picker Pokemon for each type or whatever? Let me know what your favorites are down in the comments. And again, it's funny and it's stupid, but 5 subscribers is a lot for what I experience in YouTube and stuff. So if you stuck by this long, I really appreciate you, and I appreciate everyone in the future for whatever we're doing with this stupid Pokemon channel. So, anyways, my name's Super Nerd Pharaoh. Peace out, y'all. Thank you. Like and subscribe.